Are we heading for a war? That's the question millions of people are asking as tensions between Iran, Iraq and the US continue to spiral out of control.
But they're tough and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. And we want to fight now more than they do.
So let's break down exactly what's going on, clearly and chronologically, as events unfold. And if you enjoy summaries like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Iran has an ability to project power against us and our allies in ways that we can't tolerate. So whether that's ballistic missiles and drones, so offensive capabilities, effectively their navy, which would attempt to set other terms and impose different costs, drone capabilities, which we laid out there, and ultimately, though, this tying it back to Midnight Hammer, the president has been willing to make a deal. You can't have a nuclear bomb. Radical Islamists can't have a nuclear bomb that they wield against the world.
In the early hours of the 28th of February 2026, explosions ripped through Tehran and several other Iranian cities. It was a coordinated military operation carried out by the Israel Defense Forces with support from the United States Department of Defense. Israel called it Operation Lion's Roar, and the United States referred to its involvement as Operation Epic Fury. The targets were not random. Missile launch facilities, air defense systems, command centres, infrastructure, all allegedly connected to Iran's drone and nuclear programs. The goal in particular was ballistic missile capabilities and regional proxy networks. Iran confirmed that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei had been killed in one of the strikes on Tehran. And that single development changed the situation overnight. This was no longer a strategic military strike. It was a strike against the highest authority in the Islamic Republic. Ali Khamenei was not just a political leader. He was the ultimate decision maker in Iran's military and religious hierarchy. Therefore, inside Iran, shock turned into fury.
We are going to rip them apart, hold these people accountable. We're going to rip them apart. They're being out of line. Martyrdom is our honour. It's our right and our leaders' unquestionable rights to be martyred, but they're being out of line.
State media in Iran announced days of mourning. Security tightened and communication was partially restricted. The message from Tehran was immediate. Retaliation was coming, and it didn't take long. Within hours, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps began launching waves of ballistic missiles and armed drones. The targets weren't limited to Israel. They included US military bases across Iraq and several Gulf states. In Israel, sirens wailed across major cities. Families rushed into shelters. Air defense systems intercepted many incoming projectiles, but not all of them. Explosions were reported near urban areas and casualties were confirmed. At US bases in Iraq and elsewhere in the Gulf, defense systems activated as missiles approached. Some were intercepted, others struck infrastructure. Military personnel were killed and injured. And just like that, what began as a targeted strike has turned into a multi-front exchange. And it hasn't stopped there. Northern Israel and southern Lebanon quickly reignited as flashpoints. Hezbollah, which has long been backed by Iran, began firing rockets towards Israeli territory. Israel responded with artillery and airstrikes in Lebanon, and a border that had been simmering for years was suddenly active again. Meanwhile, something has been happening behind the scenes that could affect more than the Middle East. Shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz began to slow dramatically. This narrow waterway between Iran and Oman is one of the most critical energy corridors on Earth. Roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes through it. After the strikes and counterstrikes, Iranian military officials warned that commercial vessels could face unpredictable risks. Shipping companies reacted quickly. Some turned vessels around, others delayed entry. Oil prices spiked almost immediately, and air travel was disrupted as well. Flights were cancelled or rerouted, and thousands of travellers found themselves stranded.
Unfortunately, our whole trip from our school canceled it, so we're no longer going to Dubai.
Yep, there's no more Dubai trip in the future for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't think there are going to be many Dubai trips happening very soon.
So at this point, the conflict had clearly spread beyond Iran and Iraq. Back in Israel, the government declared emergency measures. Schools were closed in several regions. Civil defence systems remained on high alert. Inside Iran, mass gatherings filled the streets, some mourning, some demanding revenge. Reports of casualties climbed, though numbers remain difficult to verify independently in an active war zone. Infrastructure damage across several cities added to the chaos. And then the diplomatic front opened. An emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council was convened. Governments traded accusations, and calls for restraint came from multiple countries.
The United Kingdom was not involved in the initial strikes on Iran by the US and Israel. That decision was deliberate. We believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon.
Russia condemned the initial strikes, and European leaders stressed the urgency of diplomacy.
Governments are here to improve people's lives, to provide solutions to problems, not to make people's lives worse. And it is absolutely unacceptable that those leaders who are incapable of fulfilling that mission use the smoke of war to hide their failure.
Now, several days on, strikes and counter-strikes continue, but they appear targeted instead of indiscriminate. Military infrastructure has and will remain the main target, but civilian casualties have also taken place on multiple sides. It's important to understand the deeper backdrop here. Iran and Iraq have been adversaries for years. Their conflict has usually played out indirectly through cyber operations, intelligence campaigns, and proxy forces in places like Syria and Lebanon. Direct strikes on each other's core territories were rare and carefully calibrated. Well, that restraint appears to be broken.
We're also hitting where they make missiles and where they deliver missiles. We've struck over 5,000 targets to date, some of them very major targets, and we've left some of the most important targets for later in case we need to do it. If we hit them, it's going to take many years for them to be rebuilt.
For more summaries like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.